What if the small gray lump on your windowsill, the one you have been meaning to throw out since it stopped looking alive, is worth more than everything else on that sill combined? Some of these succulents sell for hundreds. A few pass $1,000, and one of them is the most widely grown succulent on the planet and is worth about $5. What decides it is almost never appearance. It comes down to speed. The valuable ones grow at a rate that would embarrass a stone, and the plants carrying real money got there by sitting in a corner unnoticed for 20 or 30 years while nobody did anything to them at all. Size is the only honest price tag these things carry. So before anything goes in the bin this month, work out how long it has actually been standing there. 10. Variegated gasteria. Thick, blunt tongues of leaf, stacked in two flat ranks like a hand of cards, the surface rough with small raised white bumps. Dark green, low, and it has done nothing visible in 4 years. Most people who own one assume they are looking at an aloe that gave up partway through. Fair enough. Take it to the window and look at the leaves emerging from the middle of the fan. Japanese growers have been working this genus for generations, running alongside the Haworthia selection that gets all the attention, and the variegated forms are what came out of it. Broad, clean bands of cream or butter yellow running the length of the leaf, sometimes covering half the surface. Named cultivars trade in the hundreds. The plain green plant beside it on the garden center bench is $9. There is something else about this genus worth knowing, and it explains why yours ended up in a dim corner and survived there. Gasteria grows in shade in South Africa, tucked under shrubs and against rock, and it is one of very few succulents that genuinely prefers low light. The neglected corner was never neglect. It was correct. Your test tonight. Ignore the old outer leaves completely and look at the two newest ones pushing up from the center. Variegation arriving on new growth is genetic and permanent. Pale patches only on the tired outer leaves are sun damage or age, and they mean nothing. Then judge the pattern itself, because broad, defined bands are what the money follows, while faint speckling scattered across the blade does not. And the loss, which I watch people make with the best intentions. Somebody decides the boring plant needs more light to get going and moves it to the sunniest sill in the house. Gasteria scorches. The leaves go brown and papery in patches, and that damage stays on the plant for the rest of its life. 9. Conophytum. A cluster of tiny paired bodies, each one about the size of a pea, fused together so completely that the join shows only as a fine slit across the top. Some look like green pebbles. Others are heart-shaped or dimpled or dusted with fine dark speckling. For a good part of the year, the whole thing is wrapped in a dry papery skin the color of an old envelope, and it looks conclusively dead. Conophytum are winter growers from the far west of South Africa, from a strip of Namakwaland desert that gets almost all its moisture as fog. Through the dry heat of summer, the plant retreats inside its own old bodies and waits, sealed in that sheath. And around September, a new pair pushes through the split and the old skin peels away. Korean and Japanese collectors have spent decades selecting this genus. Named cultivars with unusual patterning or color have reached 4 figures, and there are clones circulating that have never been offered commercially at all. Your test tonight, and this is the one where restraint matters. Do not peel the sheath and do not water. Hold the cluster up and look for a pale green line showing through the split in the papery skin. That is the new body already formed underneath. Then count the individual heads, because a clump with 20 or 30 of them represents many years of a plant slowly doubling. And the loss happens every August. In the exact fortnight, the plant looks worst. Somebody sees a pod of dry brown husks, decides it died over the summer, and tips the whole thing onto the compost heap about 3 weeks before it would have opened. 8. Dioscorea elephantypes. Sitting on the surface of the pot, not buried in it, There is a woody dome cracked into a mosaic of raised polygonal plates. It genuinely resembles a tortoise shell somebody set down in the compost. Out of the top comes a thin, wiry vine with small, heart-shaped leaves that climbs whatever it can reach. Then, at some point in the year, the vine yellows, dries, and falls away entirely, leaving a lump of what looks like dead bark in a pot of soil. That is when it goes out with the rubbish, and the plant was in perfect health. Elephant's foot, from the dry interior of South Africa, and the dome is a caudex, a swollen stem base that stores water and carbohydrate through months of drought. The plant runs on an annual cycle where the vine grows, feeds the caudex, then dies back on schedule. Roughly speaking, a full dormancy runs several months, and the timing drifts from plant to plant, which is exactly why nobody recognizes it as normal. Growth is measured in millimeters of diameter a year. A caudex the size of a grapefruit is a plant somebody has kept alive for decades, and a large old specimen is a four-figure plant. Nothing accelerates it. Your test tonight, and it takes 30 seconds. Press the top of the dome with your thumb. Hard and woody means alive and dormant. Soft, spongy, or hollow feeling means rot, and that is the only bad outcome here. Then, look at the crown, the very top of the caudex, where a new vine bud will be sitting as a small pale point waiting for the season to turn. And the loss. During dormancy, the plant wants to be kept dry and left completely alone. Somebody sees a bare pot, decides it needs help, and waters it weekly through the resting months. The caudex rots from underneath, and 30 years ends in a fortnight. 7. The golden barrel cactus. A ribbed green sphere the size of a football, ridged like a pumpkin, armed with rows of stiff golden spines and a dense crown of yellow wool on top. Echinocactus grusoni. It stands in hotel lobbies and shopping center planters across the country, and somebody almost certainly told you it was worth a fortune. The story behind it genuinely sounds like money. It is endangered in the wild, restricted to a small area of Querétaro in central Mexico, and a substantial part of its native range disappeared under a reservoir when the Zimapan Dam was built. Wild populations are down to a fraction of what they were, and the species carries international protection. So I have to be straight with you, because this is where people most reliably get it backwards. Yours is worth around $20 or $30. Protection status and market price are not connected in the way people assume. Golden barrels germinate readily from seed, grow at a respectable clip for a cactus, and nurseries in Arizona and California produce them by the 100,000. Supply is enormous. The plant is scarce on one Mexican hillside and abundant on every garden center bench in the Southwest, and the bench is what sets the price. This holds across the whole subject. Endangered means hard to find where it grows. Expensive means hard to produce in a nursery. Sometimes the two coincide, and often they do not. Your test tonight is a ruler and a calendar. Measure the diameter, then measure it again in 12 months. A golden barrel adding a centimeter or more a year is doing what golden barrels do, and that pace is precisely why it costs so little. Hold on to that number, because every plant left on this list moves at a fraction of it. But before the top 5, there is a pattern running under all 4 items so far, and it decides everything from here. Every succulent that carries real money is slow. Not slightly slow. Slow enough that a plant which looks like a curiosity in a 4-inch pot has been sitting somewhere longer than the person who owns it has lived in the house. Nurseries cannot manufacture their way out of that. A grower can flood the market with golden barrels because golden barrels cooperate. Nobody can flood the market with a plant that needs 30 years to reach saleable size, which is why the price stays where it is decade after decade. Number 6. Euphorbia obesa. A near-perfect gray-green sphere, smooth, completely without spines, marked with fine cross-banding in purple and brown that genuinely resembles a plaid pattern. The baseball plant, and it looks manufactured rather than grown. It comes from a small area of the Eastern Cape in South Africa, and it was collected so heavily in the early 20th century that it became one of the first succulents to receive international protection. Something about its biology kept supply tight for decades. Euphorbia obesa is dioecious, meaning individual plants are either male or female, and a solitary specimen can never set seed no matter how long you keep it. Producing seed requires two plants of opposite sex flowering together, and for a long time, growers simply did not have that. Your test tonight. Look at the very top of the sphere for the tiny flowers around the crown. Male flowers carry visible stamens with pollen. Female flowers show a small three-lobed structure that swells into a seed capsule. And the loss on this one is a watering habit. Obesa has no spines, so people handle it, and it sits low enough that water pools around the base. The plant rots at the soil line while the top still looks perfect, and by the time it softens, there is nothing left to save. Water the grit around it, never the body. Number 5. The variegated Japanese agave. A tight little rosette 4 inches across, short spoon-shaped leaves curving upward, blue-gray with a broad cream stripe running down the center of each one. Red-brown teeth along the margins, a dark terminal spine at every tip. It looks like something carved rather than grown, and it sits in a shallow dish on the sill doing very little. Names to know are Ohi Raijin and Kichiokan, both dwarf selections of Mexican agaves that Japanese growers found and fixed. The thunder god names came with them. I want to be accurate about the money on this one because it gets overstated online. A good variegated Ohi Raijin sits well over $100 in collector circles, and specialist growers list it accordingly. Some of the smaller Asian export nurseries move plants for a good deal less than that. It is a serious plant, and it is not a 4-figure plant, and anybody telling you otherwise is selling something. There is a habit worth knowing that makes this one unusual. Most agaves throw pups from underground runners, off away from the parent. These produce them from the leaf axils instead, tucked in tight against the base of the mother, which is why an established plant becomes a dense clump rather than a scattered colony. Your test tonight. Check where the cream sits, because a stripe down the center of the leaf is what the named forms carry, while a thin edge margin is a different and generally cheaper selection. Then work your fingers into the base and count the pups pressed against the mother. And the loss, which is the same one that costs people every variegated plant. All green pups grow faster than variegated ones, so an unattended clump drifts back toward plain over the years. Remove the green offsets. Keep the striped ones. 4. Pseudolithos. A lumpy gray-brown mass with a faintly pebbled surface, roughly square in cross-section on some species, more rounded on others, sitting in a pot of pure grit. There are no leaves. There are no spines. Nothing about it moves, colors up, or produces anything most of the year. Somebody looking at it would tell you a stone had got into the compost, and that is precisely where the name comes from. These come from Somalia, Oman, and the arid corners of the Horn of Africa, and they are among the most temperamental succulents anybody keeps. The plants want serious heat, air moving constantly around them, and water in small quantities at the right moment. Get the timing wrong once, and the whole body collapses to mush within days. Root systems on them are small and easily lost, which is why many growers keep them permanently grafted onto something tougher. Difficulty is the entire pricing story here. Seed is scarce, germination is unreliable, and a good proportion of the seedlings die before anyone can sell them. What survives is expensive because so little survives. Your test tonight. Look underneath the plant for a graft line, a slightly different tissue, and often a visible join where a caudex or similar rootstock takes over. Grafted plants grow faster and forgive more. Then look for the flowers, which are tiny, star-shaped, dark maroon, and carry a smell somewhere between old meat and a drain, because flies do the pollinating. And the loss is almost always a cold night. These stop tolerating anything below the mid-50s, so a plant left on a windowsill through one winter draft goes soft at the base by morning. Move them off the glass in October. 3. Aztechium riteri. Small enough to sit under a bottle cap. Gray-green, ribbed, and the ribs are folded into fine horizontal wrinkles that make it look like something ancient and carved, which is where the Aztec reference came from. It grows on vertical gypsum cliffs in One River Canyon in Nuevo León, and essentially nowhere else. Not on the flat. On the rock face, rooted into cracks in the gypsum itself, in a place almost nothing else will grow. The pace is what puts it this high. A decade in cultivation produces a plant the size of a coin. Seedlings come up so small that growers commonly graft them purely to get them past the first years alive, and even grafted, they are unhurried. Your test tonight. Look for the fine transverse wrinkling across each rib, which nothing else in a collection has. Then measure it. Anything past an inch across on its own roots represents a very long time, and a plant sitting on a tall green stem is grafted rather than grown that way. And the loss comes from the soil. Aztechium wants a mineral mix that drains instantly and has almost nothing organic in it. Potted into ordinary compost as a kindness, the roots suffocate over one wet winter, and a plant that took 15 years to reach the size of a thumbnail is gone before spring. Number 2. Copiapoa cinerea. A chalk-white sphere, sometimes a short column, coated in a pale waxy bloom so heavy it looks dusted with flour. Black spines stand out against it, stiff and sparse, and there is a woolly crown at the top where the flowers appear. Older plants clump, forming mounds of pale heads pressed together. The white coating is not decoration. Copiapoa live in the coastal Atacama, one of the driest places on the planet, where rainfall in some years is effectively nil, and the only reliable moisture arrives as fog rolling in off the Pacific. That waxy bloom reflects sunlight and reduces water loss, and the plants tilt their growing points away from the sun as they age, which is why old ones lean. Growth under those conditions is close to imperceptible. Large plants in habitat are thought to be well over 100 years old, and some considerably more. In cultivation, a good specimen with real character takes decades to build, which is precisely why mature ones reach 4 figures, while seedlings sit at a few dollars. That gap has consequences. Copiapoa poaching has become a serious problem, with wild plants dug out of the Atacama and moved into the European and Asian trade, and enforcement has intercepted shipments running to thousands of plants. So the test tonight has 2 parts. Look for the waxy pale coating and the black spines, then look at the base and the roots. Nursery plants sit on fine fibrous root systems and have even symmetrical bodies. A wild collected plant has a thick woody taproot, old scarring, and an irregular shape from decades on a hillside. If you are buying, buy seed-grown and ask the question directly. And the loss is a cloth. That white bloom is a coating the plant made once and cannot replace, so wiping the dust off a copiapoa to smarten it up leaves green patches that never recolor. People do it before photographing them for sale. Number 1. And it is almost certainly within 20 feet of you right now, in a kitchen, on a windowsill, in a pot somebody gave you. Aloe vera. Thick gray-green blades with soft teeth along the edges, spotted when young, sprawling and floppy when old, sitting in a pot 2 sizes too small with pups crowded around the base. $5, maybe $8. There is no collector market, no named clone anybody chases, no quiet trade among enthusiasts. It is grown on plantations by the million and sold in every supermarket on Earth. Fame is not value. The thing everyone recognizes is almost never the thing worth the most, because the whole world already has one. But sit with what that plant actually is for a moment. because it closes this whole list. Nobody can point with confidence to a wild population of aloe vera. Botanists have argued about its origin for 2 centuries, and the best current thinking places it in the Arabian Peninsula, where it barely persists. Everywhere else on Earth it exists because human beings carried it. It traveled with traders, with armies, with settlers, and with migrants, out of Arabia into North Africa, across the Mediterranean, into India, into the Caribbean, and the Americas, over several thousand years. And it moved by pups, not seed. Somebody twisted an offset off the base of their plant and handed it to somebody else, and that happened continuously for millennia until it reached your kitchen. So here is the final test, and it is the one running under all 10 items. Do not ask what a succulent is worth this afternoon. Ask how long it took and who kept it going. Because the price on a slow plant is really a measurement of patience, and almost always somebody else's. Everything valuable tonight looked dead, looked like a stone, or looked like nothing at all. Not one of them looked expensive, and that is the entire reason they survived on windowsills instead of being sold. If this made you want to look properly at what is sitting on yours, do me one small thing and like the video. It tells me to keep making these. And if you are not subscribed, that is where the next one lives. Then tell me down in the comments. What is the oldest plant in your house, and do you have any idea what it is called? I read every single one. Last thing, and I mean it. Before anything goes out this month, press it with a thumb and check whether it is firm. Dormant and dead look identical, and only one of them is coming back.